Well, hello, friends. You're at a virtual book launch party for our friends Dave and Linda Combs, and I'm Jeffrey Berwin, your MC and host for this wonderful event. I'm the head coach for Steve Harrison's programs. Dave is a member of a number of our programs, our Quantum Leap program, our Get Published Now. He attended our National Publicity Summit, and it's my pleasure to MC this event for somebody we're very, very proud of. Good to see you, Dave and Linda.
Oh, thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. We want to thank everybody for joining us today. This is just a red letter day in our house. So
That's right.
Welcome.
So everybody has a job to, and we'll pause the party because you all need to go get a glass of something in the glass, because at the end of the party, we're going to toast him. I'm still at work, so my champagne glass has water in it, but I wish it didn't. So go ahead right now while we're waiting to go get yourself a glass, a cup, maybe some cheer wine, or whatever it is that you will toast Dave and Linda toward the end of our event today.
Very good. I saw Bob Johnston over there. He
got
had his glass.
already.
He came prepared.
People are prepared. Yeah, hold them up. If you already have them, let me see them. Francis, that's a beautiful cup. There's Barbara.
Oh,
There's Bob. Looks good. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So again, if you're joining us, I'm Jeffrey Berwin, your MC, hosting this event. And I want to introduce Dave's book coach, our own Christina Smith. Thanks for joining us, Christina.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave and Linda. I really appreciate it. And I am just a big fan of Dave's book, and I want to wish you congratulations, and let's go celebrate your major accomplishment.
Yes, indeed. Well, thanks for all the great work you did with Dave. So Dave, I think you would like to officially welcome your guests. Go right ahead.
Yes. In fact, I'll let Linda, she's normally the hostess. We wish you all were here in person, but I'll let Linda do part of this here.
Well, thank goodness for technology, because now all of you didn't have to fly across the country, and you can see it live right here. And we just thank everybody for all your support in the past. Many of you have been in our home, and you know the setting that we're in by the piano here. And we just would look forward to a time when we can join together again in person. But we just want to say welcome to everyone, and thanks so much for your friendship and for your support over the years. It's been a wonderful experience. Many of you are very, very long time friends, and we really appreciate that very much.
Yes, okay. It's just great. I'm just kind of overwhelmed with the number of people that have said, yes, we want to be there. And obviously there's no way in the world we could have 200 people from all over the country here on a day like this if it weren't for the technology. So we thank you for taking the time to sign up and join us today. It's going to be a fun afternoon, and thank you for helping us celebrate. This is really a big deal. I had no idea this time a year ago that I would even have a book. So this is really something. Thank you for coming.
I got my copy.
Oh, I see some more copies flying.
That's right. That's right. So we have a treat for all of you. Dave and Linda know about this, but this is a pre-recorded interview that Dave did with the best-selling author in history, the guy that has sold 500 million books. Interviewed Dave about Touched by the Music. We're talking about Jack Canfield. So we're going to take 7 minutes to watch this interview, which I'm going to roll now.
Hi everybody, Jack Canfield here. I'm your host today, and I have an extraordinary guest with me today. His name is Dave Combs, and he's the composer of a very special instrumental song named Rachel's Song. You may have even heard it. It's been heard by millions and millions of people, and this song has touched the hearts of millions of people all over the world for nearly 40 years. And Dave's now written a new book called Touched by the Music, which tells the story of how the gift of this one song transformed his life and continues to positively impact the lives of everyone who hears this inspired music. So welcome to the show, Dave.
Thank you, Jack. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you. So let's start talking about how you first came to write this beautiful piece of music, and then where the title Rachel's Song came from.
Well, as far as long back as I can remember, my favorite way of relaxing is to sit down at the piano and just play something. I'll play some chords and then I'll make up a melody, I'll improvise. But in January of 1981, something different happened. I sat down at the piano and I started playing this song. And I played the verse and then I played the chorus. And it never changed. I played it again. The song was exactly the same. And you know, it never occurred to me that I was writing a song. And then a couple of weeks later, my wife Linda came home. She was humming this tune and she says, Dave, what is the name of this song? It's been stuck in my head all day long and you play it on the piano all the time. What's its name? It doesn't have a name, I said. It's just something I made up. What? You wrote this song? Well, I really just sat down and played this song. I really feel like the song was just given to me as a gift from God, and I was the fortunate person that was selected to receive it and play it. Mm-hmm. And so she got all excited and she said, well, you better write it down so we don't lose that song. And so we did. I wrote down the melody and the chords, and then Linda and I tried to come up with a good name for it. Nothing ever seemed to fit. And so I put it in the piano bench and stayed there for a couple of years. And then a couple of years later, good friends of ours had a little baby girl named Rachel. And at her christening service, I had the opportunity to play this song. So I sat down at the piano at the front of the church and I started playing. And as I played, there just wasn't a dry eye in the house. And when I finished playing the song, I looked over to my right and where little Rachel was being held by her mother. And I said, from now on, this song will be called Rachel's Song in her honor. And Jack, that's how it got its name.
That's a beautiful story. Now, obviously this song we talk about it came to be heard by millions. And when did you first realize the power of Rachel's Song to connect so deeply and intimately with people?
Well, 3 years later, after the song got its name, I was on a business trip to Nashville, Tennessee. And while I was in Nashville, I got a demo recording made of Rachel's Song at a studio. And the musician that I selected for playing Rachel's Song, his name was Gary Prim. And he is a wonderful studio musician. And I can remember sitting in the studio and listening as Gary was playing my song, Rachel's Song, and I was just overwhelmed. What I was hearing in the studio was just absolutely amazing music. And I kept saying to myself, this is it. This is it. Now, I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was something big in my life. Well, when I came home to Winston-Salem after the recording was made, and I played, of course, the recording for folks, and one of the first people that I played it for was a friend of mine named Bob McHome. Well, Bob had this wonderful radio program on Saturday mornings where he played big band jazz music. Well, I played the Rachel's Song for Bob, and Bob was moved to tears. I mean, he was literally tearing up. And so he said, Dave, you have to let me play Rachel's Song on my radio program. I said, okay. Well, sure enough, Saturday morning, Bob plays Rachel's Song on the radio. And the song hadn't even finished playing on the radio when the phones at the radio station lit up. What's the name of that song you're playing? Would you please play Rachel's Song again? Well, the radio station manager later told me, he said, in all my years of working in radio, I have never had that happen to me before. Never seen that before. Well, I got all excited. I said, I've got to get this played then on more radio stations. So I got busy and I spent hundreds of hours calling radio stations all over the country. And eventually I got Rachel's Song played on hundreds of radio stations. And they didn't just play it once. They played it over and over. In fact, several of the big markets in the country, like Los Angeles and St. Louis, Chicago, Atlanta, Baltimore, it became one of their top requested instrumental songs. And a friend of ours even took the recording to Australia with him. And lo and behold, Rachel's song became the #1 requested song in Australia for over 2 years.
Wow.
And even today, Jack, Rachel's song is played all over the world, although more on the internet now than on radio. But it's just millions of people have heard this wonderful song.
One thing about your book that I love, the stories are phenomenal, but the other part is you're a really good writer, and they just read really well. It's like I couldn't stop turning the pages. So I want to congratulate you on that. And I want to encourage all of you watching this to go to Amazon.com, get a copy of Dave's book, Touched by the Music, and read more of these fascinating stories, because the stories are as inspiring as Rachel's song is musically. You'll find it's really, really very inspiring, very comforting music. You're a wonderful man. Just listening to you talk is calming. So I can see how your music coming through you would be nothing but that. So thank you for joining us, Dave. I really appreciate the book you've written, the music you've written, and just who you are and the contribution you're making to the world. So thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you, Jack. It's been a pleasure.
That was a wonderful if you're just joining us, that was a pre-recorded interview that Dave did with the best-selling author of all time, Jack Canfield. If you've just joined us, you have a job to do, and that is go get a glass and fill it with something, because at the end of our event, you will be toasting Dave and Linda. So I'm Jeffrey Berwin, your host. Glad you're here. And that was a great interview, Dave.
Thank you. I really enjoyed that. That got my writing of the book really kicked off in full speed.
Yeah. So, well, speaking of the book, and a number of us have copies already, but this is my favorite part of a book launch, is the author reads a segment from his book. But I think you're going to read and then give us a little bonus, aren't you?
That's right. That is right. Before I read the section, I want to give you a setting to tell you exactly where we are in the book. This takes place, what I'm going to read, about 6 years after I had written the music to Rachel's song. And as you heard in the interview, I'd gone to Nashville to find a recording artist to play a demo of Rachel's song. And so I had found a studio and got a recommendation for a fine musician by the name of Gary Prim. And so I had gone back to the hotel and called Gary Prim's number and left him a message to call me back. And so here I am, and so this is where I pick up on page 24 of my book. Sitting in my quiet hotel room, my mind drifted in nervous anticipation. Will Gary be willing to do this for me? I wonder how much it would cost. What would a demo recording really sound like? I didn't have long to wait. After about 30 minutes, the phone rang. It was Gary. His very friendly voice asked how he could help me. Well, I've written this simple instrumental piece called Rachel's Song, and I would like to get a good demo recording of it on piano. Is that something you could do for me? Why, sure, he said with genuine enthusiasm. You know how they say you can hear a smile in someone's voice over the phone? Well, I heard Gary's smile, and I instantly knew that I would really enjoy working with him. Just send me a lead sheet and a recording of you playing it, and I'll be happy to do that. Well, I would love to do that, Gary, but one thing, what's a lead sheet? I asked, candidly showing my lack of knowledge about the music industry. Oh, that's just the melody written out along with the chords, Gary explained. Oh, good, because I do have that. I just didn't know what to call it. I said, feeling relieved that it wasn't really something complicated I'd need to create. Just send it over, give me a couple of weeks, and we'll be ready to record, he said. That works fine for me, I told him as my excitement grew. I'll be back here in Nashville in a couple of weeks working on a project. The timing works out great. One more question, Gary. How much do you charge for a demo recording? Just $25, he said. Wow, I was expecting a lot more than that, I explained. Demo rates for studio musicians are a lot less than full-scale rates for recording albums, he explained. After taking down Gary's mailing address, I thanked him for his help and said goodbye. When I hung up the phone, I had no idea that neither Gary's life nor mine would ever be the same after that. And now I'd like to play Rachel's song for you, but I need to do one thing. I need to move the microphone over to the piano so you can hear it better, and turn the gain down a little bit so it doesn't blow you out of the water here. Okay.
Dave, that was beautiful, of course. And wasn't it wonderful that with 200 people zooming in, we get to be in your living room having you play live for us? How wonderful that is.
That is quite an audience.
From people from all over the world. Well, thank you so much. So we have some comments from a few people before we go to the next part, and I'm going to play a pre-recorded message to you from Gary Prim. Remind everybody who Gary is one more time.
Gary is the wonderful artist that I met in 1986 that played the first demo recording of Rachel's song, which, by the way, is the same recording you hear when you play the Rachel's Song album. That song has never changed from the first time it ever got recorded.
And let's play his comments.
Hello, Dave, and all you fine folk joining in on the Zoom call. I'm so sorry I can't be with you in person, but wanted to let you know how much Dave has meant to my life, as well as my family's. You know, that chance encounter many years ago started a friendship and a music partnership that has touched countless people. If you haven't read the book yet, I know you'll love all the little details that started our adventure. So I just hope you enjoyed the party with Dave. God bless you all.
Now I think you can see why I just love that guy. He's like a brother to me. He's such a wonderful person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think we're going to invite a few people to go live with us. Is that right, Dave?
Yes, I think we have about 2 or 3 people here that are, I've noticed that I've spotted a couple of them on the screen already.
So I want to take this moment to give a shout out to Kimberly, who has produced this whole event for Dave, and helping her is Cynthia. So Kimberly, kudos to you. It's not easy to put this on. And I know Dave gave you a couple moments.
Just a couple.
Well, Linda make sure it worked out right. So if you're able to find Barry Fowler, Bob Handley, Stan Moon, in whatever order you can find them, and make them live, that would be great.
I have quite a few people named Bob, but no one by that name. If any of those 3 people are on the call, if you could hit the reactions button at the bottom of your screen and choose the button that says specifically raise hand, that will help me sort you out from the other 200 people that are here, because I don't have you listed by your names.
So we're looking for Barry Fowler, Bob Handley, and Stan Moon. If you can make yourselves known. So there's Kathy Moon.
I've got Kathy Moon. I'm going to ask you to unmute. And I see Bob's iPad. I'm going to ask you to unmute. And the third person we're looking for
is...
I already got Barry Fowler.
Wow, okay. What a team. There we go.
Thank you.
So who wants to go first? Kimberly, I'll let you unmute whoever you want to.
I have unmuted all 3.
Oh, great. Well, Barry, why don't you, we'd like to hear from you first.
Oh my goodness, what an honor. And truly an honor to be invited to my friend Dave's book launch. I've had the pleasure of watching this journey over the past year, and really looking forward to reading the book. And I was very fortunate to get a early draft copy, and I call it a 2-box tissue book because it is so moving. And just listening to you play Rachel's song today moved me again. And I think probably enjoying your story, a story of inspiration, of persistence, of drive, and as I mentioned, in my review, a life and a journey orchestrated by God. Having read the book, every time I hear your music, I have to reach for another Kleenex, my friend. I've recommended this book to. I have a community of life coaches. And one of the things that links us all together is we're all big-hearted, sappy people. and this book is perfect for our community and so many others. I know my sister had a chance to read an early draft, and she is so excited to share it with all of the small groups that she's involved in Southern California. And so, Dave, my friend, not only does your music touch millions, your words will touch millions more. And how fortunate are we to know you and to be kind of a vicarious opportunity to share this journey with you. Thank you so much. As you know, I love you and I love Linda, and I'm honored to be here.
Thank you, Barry. We love you too.
Thanks, Barry. Let's go over to Bob Handley and we'll welcome your comments.
What he said. Dave, Linda, oh, you precious people. I'm sitting here with Jane and a surprise guest. Our beautiful granddaughter, Olivia, is here visiting. And so she's getting to share this as well. We are so blessed and honored that the birth has happened. I know you and I will never know the labor pains women go through to have a child, but having written a few books, I know that you and I have had the opportunity to share a few labor pains and putting this book together. It's a polished, beautiful product now, but there was a lot of hard work I know that went into it. But so inspiring. Oh my gosh. You know, our whole story of how we found this and got together, it would take more than the time you're going to give me. But if everybody watching will write down page 172, you're going to find the whole beautiful story of how Jane first brought the CD home from North Carolina, where she had been shopping with her mother named Rachel. And when they heard the song, Jane went up and asked about it, and the clerk said, it's Rachel's song. And at the time, Jane's mother, Rachel, was starting down a path of Alzheimer's. And so she was obviously somewhat confused, but Jane brought the CD home and we played it. She played it upstairs. And when I first heard the song, I just stopped what I was doing, and it just had such an emotional impact on our heart. And for the first time then and ever, I said, we have got to talk to the person who wrote and created and played this song. We went upstairs and made a phone call to Dave, and then found out Linda Combs had written the book, The Long Goodbye, about her mother's experience with going through Alzheimer's. And so, oh my gosh, it was just a match made in heaven that the four of us were going to be friends for life, and we have been for 25 years. And we talk every weekend that we can and catch up with each other. And this last year has been so fabulous because we've been talking about something that meant so much to both of us, which is this Rachel song. You know, Jesus said on the Sermon on the Mount, don't hide your light under a bushel. Well, Dave, I think Jesus was thinking about you, but what Jesus didn't know is there's not a bushel big enough to hold your light. You've shined a light all over this world with your beautiful music, your 15 albums, your photography that accompanies your videos, and now the spoken word. You have taken God's talents and you have, here we go. I love you guys so much. And congratulations. We're proud of you. Go ahead, Jay.
Well, he meant to say your book. But your music's been there too. We just want to make sure everybody knows it's a book.
Yeah.
And I love you both so much.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And let's go over to Stan and Kathy Moon.
Hi, Dave and Linda. Great to see you again. It's been a few years, but we've had a wonderful friendship over, I would say, 40 or 50 years. I've lost track, but congratulations on your music, your book, your contribution to so many great projects and your service in the federal government. And you guys have just been great examples of so many people and inspired so many people. And we're just very happy to know you and look forward to being able to see you sometime in the near future and catch up on good old times. And I want to thank you for including Carmen and me in the book in reference to the lyrics that we wrote to Danger in Your Love. And I'd kind of forgotten about that, but it was a nice memory that we shared. And Dave, I was thinking about some of the things from our distant past. And am I remembering correctly that you took some piano lessons from my grandmother?
That is exactly correct. Your grandmother was one of my piano teachers, lived about a half a mile down the road from where I lived, and went to her house and took lessons from her many, many times. Yes, we go way, way back.
Well, good. So I want to tell you something and then ask you a question. You know, of course, I lived right beside her and I took lessons too. And she paid me a quarter every time I took a lesson. Now, she probably didn't pay you a quarter every time you took a lesson.
As I recall, I had to pay her a quarter.
Right. Now, as you remember, back in those days, we could get into the Capitol Theater for a dime, and the soda pop and the candy bar and the popcorn were a nickel a piece. So all we needed was a quarter. Remember that?
Oh, yes. Yes.
The good old days. Yeah. Well, I was also thinking about some of the times, I think, didn't you go with me and Carl Baker over to Watauga Lake to water ski?
Yes, and luckily I didn't drown, but I got out in the middle of the lake and discovered that was more swimming than I wanted to do, and I turned around and came back. You and Carl swam all the way to the other side of the lake and came back. I felt kind of inadequate at that point, but yes, I do remember that.
Well, I'm glad you remember that. Now, here's a question that you may not have been on this particular trip, but I'm going to ask you anyway. I was in the porta potty there at Watauga Lake, and somebody threw a whole bunch of rocks on the porta potty. Was that you?
No, that was not me. Oh, no.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. It must have been Carl.
It must have been.
I have a music theory question I'd like to ask you. And here's the question. What do you get if you drop a piano down a mine shaft?
Oh, boy, that's a tough one. Probably a loud racket for one thing.
A flat minor.
A flat minor. Oh, no. Ooh,
Okay.
That's a groaner.
Enough, Stan.
Enough.
Well, again, you've done a wonderful job on your book. I really enjoyed reading it, and I'm sure you're going to bless millions of people with the book, as well as the music. It's still out there and always be out there. And so keep up the good work, and maybe someday we can get over there for a visit. And love and blessings to both of you. And I know you couldn't have done it without Linda and without God.
That's right. Well, Stan and Kathy, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always good to hear your voice, and today to see your faces. That's just wonderful. Thank you.
Likewise.
So we're going to move to the next part of our party, and that is for you, if you have a question for Dave, to go to chat to everyone. And Kim, if you wouldn't mind explaining how to do that, just in case people are not too familiar with Zoom. And Dave will have time for just a few questions, but let's see what people want to ask you.
Certainly, if you move your cursor to the bottom of the screen, you'll see a little bubble there that says chat. Go ahead and press that bubble and make sure it's addressed to everyone, and you can post your question there. If you're on an iPad, it's at the top of your screen. If you don't see it at all, look for the button that says more, and it's hiding there.
Thanks, Kim. Dave, do you want to glance at chat and just answer the questions that you want? Okay.
Sure. I see one there that says, where is the best place and best format to buy the book? Well, it's on Amazon.com, first of all, as a paperback book, which you see sitting on a piano here. And it also is available in a Kindle ebook. And I also spent a bunch of hours in the studio recording it. So if you want to hear my voice read my book for about almost 8 hours, it's available as an audio book on Audible on Amazon. And you can buy the book also at any other bookstore around the country. They can all get my book, Barnes & Noble or wherever you buy books. It's available.
So it's exciting to screen sharing. You can see it on Amazon right here. Pretty exciting to see your own book on Amazon, Dave.
Yeah, that was a big day when I loaded it up and wham, there's my book on Amazon. Whoa, that's exciting.
Sure.
Amazon is probably the quickest way to get it because you order it, it'll probably be there in 2 or 3 days because they turn it around real quick. Let's see, what else do we have here? I enjoy listening to Amazon. Do I ever intend to be a professional musician? Well, if I understand what you're implying as a professional musician, somebody like a Gary Prim, no, I'll leave that up to Gary Prim. I write the music and the songs and turn them over to Gary Prim, and I learned real early that if you want something to really, really sound good, and if it's something, a pretty song, give it to Gary, and what you get back will just blow you away with how beautiful it is. Let's see.
Wow, there are a lot of you are chatting, and we will definitely get these and look at them later, I think. Isn't that right, Jeffrey?
Yeah, we'll definitely send you chat, but let's just a couple questions, and then we'll have a chance also to congratulate him in chat in just a few minutes.
Let's see.
Question: What
is the story of my first album cover in the book? The album cover, I'm not sure it is, but I can tell you that the album cover originally was, you may recall, a photograph of some pink dogwoods, and I took that photograph of a dogwood in our front yard, and that became the cover of the first version of Rachel's Song album.
And sheet music.
And the sheet music as well. Let's see. I guess we could talk about, I wanted to mention and thank those of you, and I think there are several dozen of you who have agreed already to write a review of my book on Amazon. I've learned a lot about Amazon and book selling over the last year, and it turns out that one of the keys to how much Amazon will promote your own book depends on how popular they think it is, and then one of the gauges for that is how many reviews I have. So if I have especially reviews of people that have already bought the book, they call that a verified purchase review. And the more of those you have, the higher the more they push and promote your book. So those of you that have agreed to do that, you're being very, very helpful with the promotion of my book. And I think the other thing that all of us can do is just spread the word. Tell your friends, that about the book, and suggest maybe it's make a good Christmas present. Like when we were buying Christmas presents for my mom before she passed away, about the only thing I could think to buy her was books. She loved to read. So if you know people that love to read, perhaps one of my books would make a nice Christmas present for that person.
Joyce Neely has her hand up.
Oh, Joyce Neely
has her hand up.
Maybe you could unmute.
We'll unmute Joyce. We won't have time to really unmute too many people, but we will unmute Joyce.
Joyce, I've asked you to unmute. If you could accept that.
Okay. Linda and Dave, I was just trying to send to chat the fact that you played Rachel's song for our Rachel in Washington, D.C. at the opening of the Women's Art Museum in maybe 1989. Is that right?
Yes.
So, something like that. And Rachel still feels special. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Joyce. Let's see.
Well, good. A lot of congratulations. Why don't I make my little presentation, then we'll go back to chat, Dave.
Okay.
Give me a second. So again, Dave has been working with our company, Steve Harrison's company, where we have the National Publicity Summit, the Quantum Leap program, the Get Published Now program, a lot of ways to help authors and speakers and business owners get their beautiful works out into the world. So we want to present you. Can you see that, Christina or Kim?
Yes, we can see it.
Great. This is to certify that Dave Combs has successfully launched his new book, Touched by the Music, How the Story and Music of Rachel's Song Can Change Your Life. Congratulations from Steve Harrison and me, Jeffrey Berwind. And we will send this to you through the magic of digital technology. We're so proud of you, Dave and Linda.
Well, thank you so much.
It's Dave.
It's been quite an honor to be part of this process, and to see the final product is amazing. But as Bob Handley so eloquently said, there's a lot of labor went into that book that's behind the scenes, and I could not have done it really without the help of Jeffrey and Steve Harrison and Laura. The whole team there were so helpful. And when I first started this, when I told Steve and Jack Canfield what I needed out of this relationship between us, I needed the team behind me that would help me move this book from out of my head onto a final product. And I could not have asked for a better team behind me. It's been a fantastic relationship, really.
Absolutely. And of course, his book coach, Christina, who always does an amazing job. So we're grateful to you. And I also want to thank Kimberly and Cynthia for making sure this call happened. So one last chance to go to chat to everyone. If you haven't already, put in a word of congratulations. We're moving from question to congratulations because we're going to save whatever is in chat as like a virtual greeting card, and we'll be sending it to Dave for his keepsake. So if you haven't already congratulated him or said something in chat to everyone, now is your chance, and I will be quiet while you do so.
How about while they're doing that, I read some thanks to some special people that have really contributed to this, many of whom I've already mentioned.
Yeah, go ahead.
Especially thank my wife, Linda. She's just been my right arm on all of this, and I couldn't have done anything like this without her. And I would also be remiss if I didn't thank the good Lord for giving me my music and insisting that I share it with the whole world. I also want to thank my editors, Jocelyn and Scott Carbonara, my interior designer of the book, Tom Neary. Lynn Taylor Marketing Group helped me design the cover of the book. And of course, as I've mentioned, the entire Steve and Bill Harrison team. And then Jack Canfield and his team, and his right-hand person is Patty Albury. She's the president of the Jack Canfield Companies. And then Gary Prim, of course, who could not be here today because he's in the recording studio making music today. And then my recording engineer, Ronnie Light. He is just an unbelievable asset to have in the recording studio and has become a lifelong friend. And of course, you've heard from Stan Moon. And then all of my first readers, like you've heard from Barry Fowler, Bob and Jane Handley, and then Dan Griffin, a longtime friend, Mark Jacoby, a high school classmate of mine, Carlos Peterson, a childhood friend of mine, and Barry Tognolini, a fabulous piano player that works for Steinway in New York. And then those who've endorsed the back of my book, Jack Canfield, Gary Chapman, who is a neighbor and a friend, but also a fabulously successful author in his own right, wrote The 5 Love Languages. And Nito Cobain, the president of High Point University, of course, Barry Fowler, and then the late Jeannie Robertson. 2 weeks before Jeannie Robertson passed away, I spoke to her about doing a quote for the back of my book, and she was kind enough to do that. And the world lost a wonderful person when we lost Jeannie Robertson. Many of you know her. And then the early reviewers of my book, Roberta Messner, who you can read about in the book about the Guidepost article, Jack Stallard, Judy Kalish, and of course, again, Barry Fowler. And then the dozens of you, as I've already mentioned, that have agreed to do a verified purchase review of my book. And then my business partners of Combs Music, Drew and Marlene Parker, that have helped get this music business through many years of relationship. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't say a special hello to all the folks at Arbor Acres Methodist Retirement Center here in Winston-Salem. My mom lived there for 2.5 years till she passed away, and they were kind enough to put this presentation on Zoom up on the big theater, and I mean it is huge. It's a huge theater screen in Pioneer Hall at Arbor Acres. So a big shout out to all my friends at Arbor Acres. I love you guys, and Janice, thank you so much for doing that. And then I want to thank all of you, because I think we have over 180 people joining this Zoom call. And if I'm not mistaken, this is probably one of the largest book launch parties that Jeffrey and Steve have ever done, but this has been a lot of fun, and I just want to acknowledge and thank all those people from all over the country. We got people from I don't know, 15, 20 states, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Virginia, Kentucky, New York, Arizona, Texas, Washington, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Indiana, Louisiana, California, DC, and Canada. So thank you guys so much for being here today. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave. So here we go. Everybody go get a glass, whatever is liquid in that glass. And Dave, I think I'm going to toast you by reading something from the back of your book, if I may. As Gary Chapman writes, in a world that needs more love, peace, and joy, Dave Combs' book, Touched by the Music, is a book of love stories, love of music, love of family and friends, and love of God. You will be inspired and uplifted as you read this book and listen to the music of Rachel's song. Dave, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, honey.
All right.
Well, before we end the event, last chance to post in chat your congratulations.
And special thanks to the people who have sent me some text messages while we have been on. We will address those as well, but you all are just fabulous friends, and we just love each and every one of you.
Thanks, Linda. Dave, how about you have the last word and we'll finish.
Well, I just hope and pray that my music and my words fall on ears that need to hear what I have to say and what I have to play.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Linda. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.